going back to what you were saying about your story as an undercover cop and the murder plots. So the people that wanted you to murder someone, I was involved with a gentleman, and we did come across murdering type characters, if you like, in my journey of life. And you know, a murderer, his eyes, and there were certain things about him. They had certain qualities that you just knew that he was capable and definitely doing it. So, did you have any things that you had to learn to do to play that part? Was there anything in you that you had to bring out to convince them people that you were capable of that?
Yeah, and of course, in a lot of the other cases that I did, where I was looking to buy weapons, huge quantities of drugs, lorry loads of trainers, whiskey, whatever it might be, counterfeit currency, all of that, each and every time I was having to convince career criminals that I was one of them.
Yeah.
So I had to be convincing, or else people would go, he's not what he says he is. He's probably undercover old Bill.
Didn't you change the way it was done though? Because before, didn't the people have to go to a certain venue and you went to them?
Yeah, there was a lot. When I first went up to Scotland Yard in '85 and I witnessed how the undercover cops were doing it there, and fair play to them, this is not a criticism because they'd had many successes in doing it, but it was rather a constricted formula that they applied. And invariably for the guys that would be perhaps go to your friendly jeweller in Hatton Garden and get smothered in tomfoolery, you know what I mean, and a big, like a watch like a Lonsdale belt, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff, right? Be draped in that, get yourself a decent suit, and then sit like some kind of lounge lizard, right, in a 5-star hotel bar, you know, drinking some expensive kind of drop of whatever it was. And it worked. They did that for some years and it worked. It was like, you know, all hail unto me kind of thing, you know what I mean? I've got loads of money, what do you want to sell, little underling? And they'd been successful and good luck to them. Yeah. You know, that was it. But, you know, we had phone taps going and I was handling informants and I was out there kind of, you know, along with others, at the real forefront of the battle against the war against drugs. I mean, what's a stupid phrase that was? The war that cannot and never will be won.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'd be here all day if you would get me started on that.
Can I ask when the phone taps really become like important, or where they become a major part of the policing? Was it as the drug thing got bigger, the taps had to get bigger, and
the police have tapped people's phones almost since the day the phone was invented.
Yeah.
But of course, no one's ever admitted it in court. The police will never admit it in court, nor will the security services and all that kind of stuff. But we were hearing on those, and through speaking to people, that they were going, you know, if you get called onto a hotel for a meet, and it's a 5-star hotel, and there's a geezer draped in gold and a rather nice suit, chances are he's old Bill. You know, and we were hearing this. So I knew there was a need to change the tactics because they were getting wise to it, not surprisingly so. And I was very fortunate to be supported by a brilliant boss who was an absolute monster. He made Gene Hunt look politically correct, right? But he was a great boss for all his questionable behaviour. He supported me, and the senior management supported me at the yard when I was saying we've got to change tactics. When I'm undercover, if a bloke says to me, I'll meet you at this flat, or come round my place, or this, that and the other, then why on earth wouldn't I go?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to be carrying the money with me. This is like a prelim meet. This is a get to know you. This is perhaps discuss the trade. Why on earth wouldn't I go? The bosses were going like, well, the surveillance team might not be able to follow you. Yeah, okay. All right, but I can give a signal if I'm happy and they can stand down and leave me be. Well, what happens if they kidnap you? Kidnap me for what? I've got no dough on me. It's not like I've got the driver parked outside with 100 grand in a Joey like there and then. I'm just going to have a meet and discuss business. So why are they going to kidnap me? You know, I said, well, are you willing to take the risk? Yes, I'm more than happy to do it. You know, I'm the one going undercover. If I can't talk myself out of any corners I find myself in, then that's my problem. Just let it be, it'll be fine, please. And they backed me. And they were taking a leap of faith in me, because they knew if something did go wrong, it could potentially come back to them and questioning their management and supervision and all that stuff. But they backed me. And then myself and others in the undercover sphere, we went off and did that. And of course it gave us so much more freedom, and we just looked so much more convincing. Because I'll go anywhere, mate. Where do you want to meet? I'm only going to have a meet and a chat. I don't mind where we go.
And did drugs really change the actual policing operation in a lot of ways? Because in the early 70s there weren't so much of a drug problem, but the 80s it exploded with the cocaine and the ecstasy and all that. So that must have been a big change for the policing tactics and how you had to operate.
It did, because as you so brilliantly put it, I was there witnessing it, that coke explosion in the early to mid-1980s, and it was just an explosion. You know, late 70s, cocaine was for royalty, rock and roll, and parts of the entertainment industry. Like, by the end of the 80s, chippies, sparks, plumbers,
Everyone was
window fitters, everyone's hoovering it up in industrial quantities on a Friday night and Saturday and so on. So it was an explosion. And of course I was at Scotland Yard's top team, the Central Drug Squad, when I went there in 85, and I saw this happening. When I went up there, we were 3 teams of 8, believe it or not. Scotland Yard's entire kind of drug fighting.
So there was 24 of you.
Yeah, exactly, across 3 teams. Then it became 4 teams of 10. Then it became 6 teams of 10. Then it became 8 teams of 17, and it just, mushroomed, as of course the thing did. But you'll never win the war on drugs. It's just nonsense.
Was there any really hairy moments when you were undercover that you thought, oh, this is going to be blown at any moment?
Oh yeah. I mean, I was often, you'd be accused of being undercover, old Bill. Yeah. It was almost like a default position, because if they questioned,
was there times when you did go call some old Bill?
No. Oh, all right, you got me. Can I go now?
No, but sometimes there's, like that. There is films where they go, only a guy who's not a copper would say, I am one. There is scenes like that.
Let me tell you a story, if I may, about that very, very subject, because after I'd done it for a few years and I had a bit of a reputation, I became involved in the selection, recruitment and training of other undercover cops. And part of the lesson I always used to say to them was, when you're undercover, never break your cover, right? Never break your cover. No matter how grim things might be, just stick to your cover story, stick to it. Don't roll over and say, I'm a cop, because at the end of the day, the repercussions for the person that might have introduced you into that criminal organisation could be, well, a bullet in the head. Exactly. And so I stuck to that until I was fortunate enough to go to the FBI headquarters in Quantico in Virginia. Right, I went out there with a mate of mine, and we were going to do an element of observing their undercover training, partaking in it if we fancied it, if there was scenarios, role plays, that sort of stuff. And so we went out there, and I was talking to one of the trainers about this. Obviously we had long conversations, some of which went on in bars after the classroom work was done. They really looked after us. And I was saying to this guy, no, surely, I've always thought and practiced and taught others, maintain your cover, keep your cover. So bearing in mind it's America and it is slightly different. Anyway, he said, all right, he said, come to my office 8 o'clock the following morning, right, which I did. And he said, right, put the headphones on, listen to this. And it was a very, very sombre tape from an undercover cop who was wearing a wire, and he maintains that he was the villain all the way through. It was getting very heated, and a guy pulled a gun out and just shot him, right, because they had a bit of a fallout. And you tragically hear this undercover cop literally gurgling his last breath as his lungs fill with his own blood and he dies. And he said, so then I took them off and went, right, yeah, very powerful. And this undercover cop from the States said, right, now over here, he said, we've learnt our lessons from that. And if you are in a life or death situation, our training now is, yes, break cover, tell them you're a police officer, because the bad guys know in America they'll get a far longer jail sentence for shooting a cop. In fact, they might even get hung or fried or lethal injection, get executed for killing a cop, whereas for a fellow gangster, they wouldn't do. So their advice was, no, you've got it all wrong, Peter. Break cover and say, look, I'm a cop. Don't shoot me because you'll be in real deep trouble. And that was a lot of very interesting learning taken from their experience.
So when your cover got blown, what happened? Was there something was left in a car, wasn't it? And that put you into the witness protection program.
It did, regrettably. I played a role along with an undercover operator from what was then Customs and Excise. We'd brought about the downfall of a team of very tasty criminals. The largest ever landside seizure of heroin was delivered to me in a hotel room. I examined it, weighed it, tested it over the course of 4 hours and all of that. Me and the other guy were nicked when we left the hotel room to go to the bar for a celebratory drink. And then later, it was a very complex operation. There was multiple strands to it, money being shown in London, me dealing with the drugs in Gatwick and all of that. Number of people arrested. And when they got in the dock for their first court appearance, they're all looking for that ponytailed South London bloke. Right? And of course he ain't there, namely myself. So it wasn't too hard.
I can't imagine you have a ponytail.
Yeah, I know. It was a long time ago. Long time ago.
I've got a photo of that.
I may rather embarrassingly show one or two at the show. I think. So.
Folks, that's worth the ticket
that's
money.
That's worth going to see just for
that. Get your tickets now.
I will be sending myself up hugely, yes, and deservedly so. And they kind of, things went on, they were remanded, and of course they got certain case papers, and they figured out that, well, their plan was that if they killed me, they killed the evidence. And to a certain extent they were right. A report then got stolen which had my real name in it, not my undercover number. It was a litany of mistakes, things that should never, ever have happened. And then, of course, the pre-existing murder plot. Now, if that stolen report, those two things came together, it was going to be very easy to find me because of my unusual surname. And
So were you whisked into the witness protection like overnight, as it were?
Yeah, I mean, I was driving home to Bexley Heath. We'd finished early. I was going to have a pint, driving to the pub, and I get a phone call from one of the bosses at the yard who just said, "Don't go home." Oh.
Were you married at the time, or did you have
living with a girlfriend at the time?
Right, okay.
And I said, "Oh, right. Any chance you're going to tell me why, Governor?" And he said, "No. Be here, Scotland Yard, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, and we'll tell you why." He said, "Use one of your covert credit card in my undercover identities, book into a hotel for the night, and be here 9 o'clock tomorrow morning." He said, "Who do you live with?" I said, "My girlfriend." He said, "Right, get her to go to the flat, pack you an overnight bag, don't you go there. And we'll see you tomorrow." So, of course, I didn't go there at 9 o'clock, did I? I'm a detective. I got there before 8 o'clock, you know what I mean? And my mate said, "Do you know what's going on?" I said, "I ain't got a clue." And he pulled out this report. And he said, "You need to keep a copy of that, and you need to read this copy of it." And he locked me in the photocopying room, and it was like, I can't believe what I'm reading here. And my name features in bold capitals on every page, like, oh, yeah. And they'd allowed it to be stolen out of an unmarked police car. Yeah, righto. But anyway, so.
How traumatic, I mean, you had great trauma, didn't you, from going into that witness programme, right? And that was basically the end of your police career, wasn't it?
It was really, yeah. Yeah, it was. I mean, I had to abandon my home, my life, my identity, the things that I liked, and I got stuck in a hideout. It wasn't a home. And that was a nightmare. Suddenly parachuted into this community, and I'm a sort of neighbourly kind of bloke. I like to say hello to my neighbours and have a chat and out with you and this, that and the other. But of course, when I'm in this hideout, I really didn't want to do it, because you imagine the neighbours going, "Oh, and where do you come from, and what do you do, and where did you live beforehand," and all that. She's like, "Oh no, I've just got to frigging make up more shit and you know, layer lie upon lie upon lie.